Morning all. Today we're going to be doing up some more copper johns. Hey, was one moment, man. I just need to get the rest of my stuff set up here. I just realized they didn't load. There. Should have streamer bot up now. And we'll have our little dudes coming shortly here. Yeah, getting around the bend. Oh, that was a long one. What happens to the best of us, right? Let me fight with this brass. Oop. Fight with the brass bead as I drop it on the ground. 1 second, see if I can find that thing. Probably not, but let's have a quick look. No, I'll have to get that one later. Alright, let's get another one. Jeez. Yeah, sucks. I haven't been that long, but it's been about, I guess it's been a week, so that's long enough. And we're just using size 3.3 on this one. Get that on backwards. Yeah, good enough. Okay, so we got the bead in there, 3.3. You can do up to 3.8 or 4 on these if you want to go big. You can even go smaller really if you wanted to, but 3.3 and 3.8 seem to work fine. This is a size 8 as well, so it's a little bit on a larger size for the hooks for these. Just makes it a little easier to see on the camera. So we're going to try and get about 7 to 8 wraps in here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to go with 9. Bust that off. There. Hey Rob, how's it going, mate? Getting back at the early morning tying here again. There, I'm just going to try and bind that down and we'll get all these bound in. And we'll bind that all the way back to the barb. Let's see if we got her there. Yeah, good morning, guys. I forgot my tea by the microwave, so I'm still not in fully in the swing of things. But I'll go grab it in a bit. Okay, so we got that tied in. You don't have to super bind in your lead. It's really just to keep this in place. And then you just want it to be covering up the part where your thorax is going to be. Hey Tyler, good to have you in, mate. Hey Rob, thanks for using the little emojis. I keep forgetting I have those things. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is tie in some biots. These are just brown turkeys. I think you can just call him Rob, and that's probably fine. It's okay. I'll grab it in a minute. I appreciate that, though. You gotta remember to use that saying. Hang out like my bob and I like that. Okay, so we're just gonna tie this. Just got 2 of these guys. I'm gonna tie them in the length of the body, so a good length. Huh. I feel like that went in a bit on the long side. Let me measure that out here again. Oh, oh. Apparently it's okay. Now behave yourself now. Probably could have got a couple more wraps on there, I guess. Like it wants to stay put. Yeah, we're just gonna feel the ends of their finger and get them roughly where we want them. It's gonna take me a couple days to get back into this tying and filming stuff. Oh, we'll get there. Get back on the horse, right? Man, that flu knocked me down. I didn't do much but sleep for like 16 hours most days. Alright, let's actually bring this through thread back to right before the thorax there. Hey, we're gonna do brass wire. Since I tied this one yesterday, I'm just gonna be going through the motions a little quicker here. Oh wait, actually I probably got enough brass from yesterday. Let's try and use that piece up. Yeah, I think this will probably be enough. It's a good chunk. Oh, man, that's a question. It could be anywhere from free because no one wants it to thousands of dollars because you picked really expensive stuff. I'd say on average, like if you're talking about just going to the fly shop and picking up like enough stuff to do some tying with, most people probably leave with like close to $100. I got some videos that I have up that you could watch on my long form, or actually I can't remember if they're lives. They probably were lives actually, because I think I did them live. But there's a few of them there where I actually bought out part of a fly shop several times in different cases, and some of them are for if someone passes away, you can get some really good deals on estate sales and that kind of thing. That's probably the closest thing I can think of. And a lot of those are, you know, I'm spending a couple $100, but I'm getting like literally garbage bags full of material, so really cheap per item. Let's stop you right about there. Okay, so last time I rotaried this, so this time I'm gonna try and do it by hand. We'll see if we get any difference. Probably will. I mean, like, there's still a really good deal. Like, sometimes I get them cheap, anywhere from like $20 for like a whole bag full of stuff. And sometimes it would be a couple $100 because it was several garbage bags full or a whole Rubbermaid tote. You know, like the guy's whole supply, right? No worries. Welcome back. I did kind of miss that one wrap on this one, didn't I? Wonder if I can shove these over. 1 second. Not really. This wire is super stiff, so it's not very forgiving if you make a slight mistake on it. Oh, I'm sure you could spend $1 trillion, especially over your lifetime. The thing is, like, you don't really have to spend much at all, right? Like, it's all relative. You can literally spend nothing and get really good fly tying material, or you can spend your whole paycheck and get junk. And a lot of it, for most tires, it's not so much that you're buying stuff that's expensive, it's that you're buying stuff that you're not going to end up using. So, tie with what you got, figure out from there what you need, and then buy the stuff that you need. When you're buying lots, like I've bought in before, the downside of buying lots is a lot of times you have no idea what you're going to get in the boxes, right? Or it's just like a mix, and you have to buy 6 things you don't need to get the one thing that you really want. And that's just part of the game for that kind of thing. And sometimes it's worth buying a whole bunch of stuff just for that one item that's in that box, because you might never see that item again. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's plenty of things where I've bought a whole box of stuff and like I knew I wasn't going to use a good chunk of it, but there's 3 or 4 things in there that I knew if I didn't buy the box, I probably wouldn't see them again in my lifetime. Especially since I like vintage materials. So since I like tying with vintage stuff more than I like tying with modern stuff, not that there's anything wrong with either one, it just is what it is. The vintage stuff, of course, they don't make it anymore, so if I see it, kind of need to pick it up, or I'm gonna run into the scenario where I can't get it again. Or if I can get it again, it might be exceedingly expensive compared to when I got it the first time. Well, I'm gonna try and helicopter this little tiny piece that's on here. It will eventually break. We'll just give it a minute. Especially this stuff because it's so dense. Come on, buddy. I can feel it going now. Come on. There it goes. Right in my waste paper basket. Perfect. Alright, so we got some nice little biots for the tail there. We got our copper rib all the way up. There's a few little kinks in there that I could have fixed up, holding it a bit tighter, but basically, I could have done better there if I had some hackle pliers and a little more tension on it, but I was just doing it with my fingers, and honestly wasn't paying a huge amount of attention to it, so we'll move on. Okay, so the next part's going to be tying in our top and our bottom thorax bit. Just trying to find, I had a little piece of flash already cut here. It's hard to find when they drop because they're clear. Okay, I guess we're gonna be tying in a new piece. 1 second. Oh, I tell myself I'm gonna use it, that's for sure. But yeah, as you can see, I tie daily, right? So, and I tie a lot of vintage patterns, so I try to use everything I have. But there's some stuff that I have that I don't even know what it's used for, to be honest. But that's all part of the fun of this, is to find new patterns and new ways to tie. And in my case, being vintage stuff, it's forgotten patterns and forgotten ways to tie. Just because it hasn't been tied in 15 or 20 years and it's not popular anymore, it doesn't mean it doesn't work. I don't know, man. Hurrying's one thing I'm not going to be doing a lot of today. I'm still recovering. Still struggling a bit just to get this regular stuff done. That's why I'm decided to do some easier patterns for me. And that's kind of like what I was saying yesterday. It's not like this is a... I know I need to go get some tea. But it's like I was saying yesterday, that this pattern is a lot of times touted as a really good entry-level pattern, but there you go. Well, I am rich. I have everything I've ever wanted. I don't want for much anything. I own my own land, I own my own house, I own my own vehicles. I have a wonderful wife, great dog, good kids. We're going to switch this one up slightly. I'm going to use this black Swiss straw instead of the rubber scud back. Why? Because I got it on my desk. And they're both equally as good. I don't know, man. I had some weird dreams with this fever the last few days, so I don't know what it's trying to tell me. I had one dream where a big blue and black spider was trying to eat me, and I had another dream where I was stuck in 11th grade math class for like 8 hours doing tests, so they both sucked. Okay, so we want this to be about the gap height. So, you know, it's about the gap height. Just gonna thin it down a little bit at my tie-in spot here. And we're just gonna tuck it right up to that bead and then pull it back here. There we are. That'll do. That should hold that flash back enough. If you're having trouble with it, positioning it, just cut the material longer and then you can stick it in your material clip. Oh, cool. It probably was. Yeah, like this stuff, if you can find the old stuff, it is vastly superior to the modern stuff. Like, it's not even comparable how much better it is. And it's hard to find. Thankfully, it ages really well. Like, I have some of this stuff that's like way older than I am, and it still works just as well, or I'm assuming just as well, as it did when it was new. Of course, I wasn't around then, so. But yeah, it works well enough that I don't have any problems with it anyway. Okay, so there we go. We got that tied in. We'll bring this up back to the bead here, and then we'll tie in our peacock. Just gonna be using knockoff no-name peacock. 2 strands will do. We're just doing it with thorax. But yeah, if you can find that like beige color is one that I really like for like nymphs and stuff, especially for like early season nymphs. And it was fairly popular. You could come by it fairly easily because they used it a lot in basket weaving and things where they're weaving with rattan because it's almost the same color. So you do run into it more often than you do other colors. But it's super useful. I would totally go back and grab it if it's there, especially if you can get it at a decent price. Most of the time it's like dirt cheap because no one knows what to do with it. But, you know, back in the like 60s, 70s or so, it was used for a lot of different things. Not so much now. Hey, so we got this tied in. You don't really have to worry about binding this down because it's going to be, you know, half wrapped with the thorax, but some people will wrap this with a piece of thread or a little bit of copper wire just to stop it from springing out if it fails. Ugh, buddy. Stay up there. It's the only downside of cutting the little short bits out on material like that. They like to go freaking everywhere. And Rob's right, I need to grab my tea. Once we get this tied in, I'll go take a quick break and we'll go grab tea. It's okay, day or two I'll be back to my regular self. We've all been there, right? Good luck with that one, right? I hate that with thrift stores, and I'll go back and I'm like, oh, I should have got that. And you go back, which bin was I looking at? Was it over here with the electronics, or was it over there with the thrifting stuff? I hope you find it, though. Or maybe you'll even find something better. I friggin' love going to thrift stores for fly tying material. Love it. It's good stuff. Actually, let's tie in. I'm going to do it in a slightly different order this time. Why? Just because. I'm going to tie in the legs here first, and then we'll throw the cap on. If you're having trouble with your legs spreading out, then this is a good way to do it. This might actually work well. I don't normally tie them in this way, but we're going to go give it a shot because I got a perfectly sized little nub of partridge here. So we're actually just going to tie the whole nub in right on the base here, like that. I'm going to tie it in upside down so I get a little flare up. And we don't get the shiny part that way. There you go. Rubber band jewelry stuff is awesome for nymphs too. And like stoneflies and stuff. You gotta be a little bit careful on the quality sometimes. Some of the kind of cheaper stuff, it doesn't stretch well and it rots really quickly. So you do have to be a little bit careful with the rubber bandy stuff. But it's super handy. You can use it for nymphs and all sorts of different stuff. Oh yeah, that looks good. I'm happy with that. Look at that little bugger. Those are some happy little legs there. That worked out really well. Gonna shorten them up just a whiff. I like them just before the hook point. I don't know if this is a true thing or not, but in my brain, which doesn't mean anything, but in my brain, I always think that having legs like this that end really close to the hook point or just before it almost act as like a little bit of a weed catch. Like if there's some light weeds, because we have a lot of light weeds, then it might help to stop it from snagging. Almost like a weed guard on a bass hook, but I really don't know if that is the case or not. Probably more not than is. But anyway, that always runs through my head. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. Maybe I'll test it out this summer. I'm not sure how I would test that and actually have like a legitimate test, but excuse me, you guys are gonna have to ignore the coughing and irpy voice and everything until I get better here. Oh, I just love this black Swiss straw. To me, this looks like, I know the black rubber has like a certain look to it, but like this black Swiss straw, it has like little tiny variegations in it, and it just looks so much like a bug shell compared to just the straight black plastic. And the black plastic has like, you know, its own charm to it because it's nice and smooth. Oh, there's that too. Yeah, I never even thought about that part of it. Well, I might have at some point, but at this exact moment, no. Okay, and I'm gonna pull this one back and tie this in first before we get the next one. You want to just catch like a thread width, and that's it. That'll bump it up. Depending on the version of this that I'm tying, I'll also cut this off back at the half point here, so it's almost like a cap over top. If I'm not doing this, yeah, that's the other cool thing about tan is you can definitely change the color on it. You can't so much on something like this black or dark green or something like that. But yeah, the tan, um, depending on what type it is, like there's a rayon type, and then there is a poly. This one here is a poly. I'm pretty sure it feels like a poly. Mm, yeah, this one's poly. You can tell because the rayon's like really um, soft. So if you get a piece about like yay long here and you pushing down on it, it'll actually bend more like fabric. Where if you have the poly type, which this one is, it's stiff, but it feels almost like garbage bag. But you can see how stiff it is. It wants to stay up. They both have their benefits and downsides for different patterns. The stiff ones are much easier to use for if you need that rigidity to hold its shape, where the rayon's really smooth and soft. It's almost like a fabric, like a silk, and that's much better if you need to body wrap or you need it to take a shape. They're both good though, don't get me wrong. They just have their characteristics. Now, if it is the rayon type, they're much harder to find because they only made that stuff in like the 60s, 70s, and then they stopped. So if you find some of that, I wouldn't say it's worth more, it's harder to come by. Especially if it's the softer variety of the rayon type. Like I said, it's not like it's worth more, it would just be worth more to me because it's harder to come by. I'm going to cut this little flap off with a little nib like that this time. I do like to do that. It's not really part of the actual pattern, but it just throws a little more light. But yeah, I have some, I just don't have it. Actually, I might have some in the drawer here. One second. That is poly. So again, this is poly. You can see the poly is like a lot more shiny because it is a plastic, right? So it's got a lot more of a shine to it. Just wondering if I have the rayon in here. It's probably down in my other box. I mostly throw stuff up here that I was recently tying with. Yeah, I'll grab some of that a later time here, Rob, and we'll, yeah, that's kind of it. Like, I like doing that with the little, like I was saying last time, sometimes I'll even do that with just the overcap and just cut it off there. Because to me it looks a lot like the stonefly wing buds, and a lot of times they'll have like little air bubbles and stuff trapped up there when they're swimming around in the creeks and that kind of thing. So to me, I think it's a really good representation of all that stuff. That's a cool thing about fly tying. You can do stuff like that, make it yours, and well, I guess people could tell you it's wrong, but doesn't mean it is. Make it yours. Add a little flair to it. Nothing wrong with that. Who knows? It might be that one little thing that makes that fish look at it and go, that looks tasty. There we go. I can't remember who it was yesterday. It might have been Ethan. I was asking about a PNT. So maybe I'll do one of those up next year. I know he's not in the chat, or at least I don't think he's in the chat right now, but he might come across the VOD later. And those are kind of fun. They're related to these guys, besides not having a split tail. Just gonna adjust the tail here. Yeah, that's better. That's a cute little brass nymph like that. My thread collar up here is probably a little. My thread collar there is probably a little on the thick side, but being that it matches right in with the thorax, I don't think it makes any difference at all, really. Just personal preference. I tend to make my collars there a little thicker I don't know if it's on purpose or not. Just do. I definitely can make them thinner. For like the Prince nymphs and stuff, I like them thicker because I like to see the color. But it doesn't matter on this one because it's just black. There we go. We'll put a little Sally Hansen's on there. I'm not sure how that's going to work with that little bit sticking up, but we're going to find out. So I do like to have a little Sally Hansen's on the cap at the top. I've seen people just completely... No worries, man. I'll get better every day, a little bit at a time, right? Thanks for stopping in, Rob. Always a pleasure, man. I think my lights are just a hair on the bright side, too. Let me see if I can fix that here, actually. One second, guys. Gonna flip around for a minute. Hey, Muddy. Yeah, have a good one, Rob. Thanks for stopping in, mate. There we go. So just gonna do a spin and spiel. Got that guy all done up. I'll let that nail polish dry a little bit. So in the vise today we have a copper john. It has a split biot brown tail, a light copper rib all the way wrapped up as the body, and a thorax made from peacock herl. Has a Swiss straw black wrap across the thorax and a little bit of hollow flash on the top there just to shine a little bit of light, act as a bit of a thorax puff for wing bud, and a nice brass bead up front. Wonderful little pattern, great if you need to go a little bit deeper for nymph fishing, or if the water's a little bit on the faster side and you need to get down a bit more. Excellent little pattern, should definitely have a couple of these in your box, eh? Thanks kindly. Yeah, morning, buddy. Morning, he was. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ethan's Lures asked me to do up a pheasant tail nymph, so we're gonna do one of those next year. Oh, cool. Rob's gonna get some mail. Speaking of which, I should have Rob's package resent. Hopefully today or tomorrow here. I got it back in the mail, so I gotta send it a second time. But I got it all, it's sitting beside me. I got it all labeled and ready to go. I just gotta get it out there and stamp it and send it off in the post. So there's the two copper johns there. We'll do up a pheasant tail nymph here for, I want to say it was Ethan. Don't matter though, whoever. P&W was the one talking to me about it, but I think it was Ethan that brought it up first. So we'll do it on the same size hook just for scale and kicks and giggles. You can tie these on all the way up from a 10 down to a, well, I guess you could go even bigger. It's kind of hard to get higher than a 10 unless you got some really nice pheasant tail because you run out of room. Okay, so we want to have, that's probably a bit much. You want about the hook gap. So normally that's going to be about 8 to 12 fibers. Like about there. I know it's all squished down, but I'm going by where my fingers are. And I'm just going to wring these out a bit. Most important thing when you're starting this off is just to try and have the tips somewhat together. So they're somewhat even. You don't want them too tapered. Once you have those off, you can just pop that off. Okay, and we're going to cut these. Just going to cut the rachis end off. That'll allow them to move a little easier too. And we're going to tie those in. First we should be getting our thread on there. Jeez. Nimby, what are you doing? Okay, let's get a thread base. I'm going to start right where my thorax is going to go. We'll go down to the barb like we normally do. Get a little bit of a thread bump at the barb. That'll help to flare the tail a little bit. Sorry, trying to do this and holding that feather in my fingers at the same time. This is an excellent fly for a new tire because it only has one material. Well, two materials if you count the copper rib that we're going to be putting in. So we want a decent sized tail on this, so we're going to go with the shank length. You can shorten it up a hair. Just going to do a soft wrap so I can hold it on top like that. I like mine to have this jutted out look like that. Some people like to tie them nice and flat. I like mine to look like that, and then I'll do 1 or 2 wraps. You see, I'm cutting it in. It's just on the other side of that, the thread bump that I put in. That causes it to flare up. And if you do a wrap just 1 thread length behind that or 2, then it'll flatten that flare out. So you get a nice flat. See that? Nice flat tail wrap there. And I like that because it pushes a lot of water, and it also it gives it a lot more movement. And that way it can represent anything from a damsel fly to a mayfly to even like not so much a dragonfly nymph, but it definitely could. We'll just bend this up a little bit so it's out of our way, and we'll tie in the copper. You can tie your copper in first, but I find it kind of mucks the tail up most of the time. Do I have my soft copper here? Hello, soft copper. Oh, there you are. You can use any copper. One that works excellent for this actually is copper wire from headphones. So if you have some old USB or headphones kicking around, it has, it has extremely soft copper. This is pretty much the same thing. It's really close to the same thing. It's just a 1 gauge thicker than what you get in a USB cable, for most cheap USB cables anyway. So it'll stand out a little bit more. The USB ones will kind of just disappear into the fly, which can be a good or a bad thing depending on if you want to show the ribs or not. In this case, we're going with this because it's what's on my disc. And I want to have this stopping. This is really just to keep the feather together if it does fail. So the first wrap or 2 I'm going to do here by the tail is going to be on this side of the. Oop, I'm trying not to get that caught in my. Try not to get that caught in the copper. Okay, like that. First wrap, you want to do it without the copper. You can just stick it out the back, but you're going to end up with a much nicer fly wrap if you don't. There we go. And I'm going to be using a hackle plier because we want to use as much of this as we can. Did I break one? Can't tell yet. Yeah, one broke. 1 second. I'm gonna re-grab that my hackle pliers here. Doo-doo. Buddy. There, good enough. It's not just good, it's good enough. Really, a second time. Ugh. Okay, come on. Let's try and grab you again. These aren't the best hackle pliers for this. I should grab my longer ones. But they'll do. There. Ugh. That's really all you need. I'm just gonna back wrap that a bit here. We'll have our thorax part. There we go. Now there's two styles that you can go from here. You can leave this up top and use this as your thorax cover, or you can cut a new piece, which I'm gonna do because I'll use them for the legs as well. But a lot of people will leave this in on the top here and just use that as the thorax cover. I may actually do that. This actually looks like it'll cover quite well. Yeah, in this case I'll use it. It's about the right thickness. Okay, we'll get the copper wrapped up now. So I'm going to be doing... Hey, wee man. Do you remember who asked about the... Yeah, the PTN yesterday? Was that you or was that... I can't remember if that was you or if that was... I know I was talking about it with Pacific Northwest, but... Can't remember if it was you or if it was Ethan's Lures that originally brought it up. Either way, doing up one now. For kicks and giggles. The only difference I do with mine is I really like to have a little bit of peacock on the thorax, which isn't really part of the original pattern, but for whatever reason, that little bit of peacock sure seems to make a big difference on how effective it is for me. Yeah, good to see you, man. Probably. I'd say it definitely, yeah, it's definitely in the top 3 or 4 anyway, for sure. And it's so simple, and I like that kind of thing where something's simple and it just works, you know? I'm gonna try and just tie in a single peacock strand because we've got such a small little thorax area here. See if I can make that work. Normally I'd be using 2. I don't know why I want to use 1. I'm just gonna use 1. Probably don't need more than that. I think we'll be okay. I've seen quite a few people actually tie these without any front legs either. I think it's definitely missing out on some usability there, but you do you. If you don't feel like you need legs, then don't put any legs in. But yeah, I always find that a little puff of peacock curl like this on the thorax just seems to get me way more hookups. Could 100% just be me and confidence fishing it and all that good stuff, but we're gonna go with that. It's also a good way to use up if you got smaller pieces of peacock that you need to just burn through that were cut off from other flies. You can put those off to the side and use those up. I'm gonna tie in my legs here first, and then we'll get this top cap done in. And there you go. The ours is coming up pretty soon here. I think it's April. I'm actually just gonna use up some of this instead of grabbing some more pheasant for the legs. I know that's cheating, but you know, I'll have to leave a comment in the suggestion box. But in this case, I don't think it's gonna make any difference here. Yeah, Hair's mask is just, it's a really good buggy material, especially for like any nymph. If you can work it in there, it's definitely not going to be a downside. But yeah, Hair's is great for all sorts of stuff, for anything to do with nymphs, for the legs, the breathers. Just gives it that really nice buggy look, right? Alright, there we go. Well, let's turn this guy from a punk rocker into a more civilized dude. I find when I'm tying these, if I press down on them like that with my thumb, you can see you get a really nice even cap. It seems to work better than other methods I've played with. I want to get about 3 or 4 good wraps on there, and then I'll pull these back. And do the same thing. And again, about 3 or 4 wraps back. There. Again, yeah, you really don't need to. I mean, it hardly stands out. More for completionist, I guess. Yeah, it doesn't. They're so small. Like, and when they're that small, they don't really have a noticeable thorax anyway. They're more grub-like, to be honest. There you go. That's a cute little dude, eh? Just throw a little couple half hitches on him and some whip finishes. I wonder for naming's sake if I should put this as P and T for the short, or if I should just call it pheasant tail nymph. Yeah, such a simple little nymph, but like Wee Man was saying, it's super effective, and like you should always have a bunch of these in your box because they work all the time. Yeah, happy with that little dude. Exactly. Yeah, it imitates like every aspect that a nymph or food source has. Like it's got the nice tail that's moves, but it's still stiff. It's got the segmentations that aren't overly segmented. That's the problem with a lot of fly patterns, in my opinion, is that sometimes they're overly segmented for the fishermen, not necessarily for the fish. It's got the bulbous little black head. It's got the legs for movement up front and the thorax. Yeah, that's how I like to tie my pheasant tail nymphs. Just I always find that little bit of peacock, even though you don't need it, you can just continually wrap your pheasant tail all the way up. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, buddy and Weeman. I appreciate it. Just gonna get a little dab of Sally Hansen's just on the tip of that head there, just for some shine. There we go. There you go, pheasant tail nymph. I'm happy with how that one turned out. That's a nice one. Considering it was just a nice quickie one, I didn't really have anything planned for it, but I do have a habit of leaving a little bit of a thread wrap at the back there. It's more so my tails will, you can see it right there, the little one or two wraps. Um, I don't necessarily do that on purpose, but it's just so I can have the thread bump to push the tail out on the proper angle. I've never had a problem with it. Oh yeah, sure. You mean like Scudback? Yeah, I got a bunch. Let's see, where is it here? I just literally had it in my hand a minute ago. Here's some. I mean like this stuff? For years, I used to just cut it out of Ziploc bags and just use that for a long time until I found that stuff. And Ziploc bags work okay, they're just not nearly as durable. Okay, just gonna do a little spin and spiel for this guy here, and we'll call her good. Just be a moment. So in the vise today we have a pheasant tail nymph. This is tied on a size 8 nymph hook, 2 times long, and has a basically mostly pheasant tail, hence the name, tail, body, and thorax cap on it. You start off with pheasant tail fibers for the tail, about 8 to 12. Wrap the rest of it around the body all the way up, chased with a thin copper wire just to hold everything and give it a little more durability. And then a little bit of peacock for the thorax, and the rest of the pheasant tail wrapped over as the thorax cap, and a little tuft of legs sticking out the back. It's always good to have a little bit of a bulbous black head on this to represent the nymph's head, and you're good to go. This is definitely a pattern you should always have in your box. It's a classic. It works everywhere, all times a year, because the nymphs are always in the water column, so you should definitely have a few of these in your box, eh? There we go. And since I forgot my tea, I'm going to enjoy it now. And I got to make my kids some breakfast and get them off to school. I do appreciate everyone stopping in and spending some time with me. Thoroughly appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in, Muddy. Thanks, Wee Man. I know Rob's gone, but we'll thank him for stopping in any case. Tyler, I think's gone, but he was here earlier. Who else did we have today? I got Muddy in there, didn't I? Yeah, we had Tyler. Modu. Not sure who Modu is, but he came in and said hi. And Iwaz, of course. Yep, all have a good morning. Thanks for stopping in. Probably see you guys later today, I think. I'll probably do some more flies up. No worries. Glad to get back in the saddle here and getting out of the sickness